Sara, welcome to the show today.
Good morning, Kevin.
How are you?
I was not good walking into work this morning. I was fighting for my life to get here.
Why is that?
Apparently, I have 0 blue jeans. Could not find a single pair. My house right now is wrecked.
Because you gave away all your clothes to the students.
I probably did. But I didn't get behind the 4 school buses that I usually get behind every morning, so that was a plus. But doing good. Busy day.
So I love how you and I always race to work. And because I live across the street, I'm 2 minutes from campus.
You do.
And you live
126 seconds.
30, you live 30 minutes away. And so it's really funny whenever you beat me to work.
Honestly, it's the highlight of my week. If I beat you to work, I feel like I'm the star. I feel like there's nothing wrong I can do for the rest of the day. Whole place could burn down, but I said, I beat Kevin to work. I did it. It's crazy.
Okay. So it is a special anniversary edition. SEU Carolina is celebrating its 8th year. It's 8th year.
Wow.
And here's what's fascinating to me. I was doing some numbers. Since we hired you, you're the enrollment director at SEU Carolina. You're responsible for all the intake and helping students from the moment they fill out an inquiry card to the moment is to ad drop, their first day of school. So you have a big responsibility, big role, but you have almost been here 4 years.
I know.
What does it feel like to be at SEU Carolina for 4 years?
It feels like I've been here for 20 years and 5 minutes at the same time. I think it's just because so much. I feel like over the past 4 years we've just had so many changes, and it's just been every day is just you never know what you're going to walk into, and not in a bad way, but like in a good way. But
so what has changed in 4 years? What are some of these changes that just come to your mind when you say so much has changed? What does that mean?
We've hosted classes in 3 different venues since I've been here.
Okay.
You opened a brand new campus during that time. So
we did a 14-week construction project renovation.
We did some renovation.
Do you remember? I'm so glad you're saying some of these things. So do you remember? I was down here where our campus is currently located. Mm-hmm. It's 25,000 square feet of renovation space, 14-week summer project, trying to get it ready from the time spring semester's over to the time fall semester opens. And very daunting, very intense. I called you down from the office and I was like, I need your help throwing something away. And you came down here and we went in the bathroom and we were throwing out the bathroom partitions. Those things weighed
so heavy.
They weighed like granite countertops.
Okay, but so my schedule looked like 8:30 to 12 I would work. From like 12 to 1 I'd come down here to make sure you were still alive. Because nobody would hear from you for hours. Yeah, no one would hear from you for hours. Yeah. Be like, let's make sure we still have a pulse, that he's not like dropped a giant granite counterpiece on him and he's stuck. And then after lunch, I'd go back to work. And then when I was done with work for the day, I'd come down here and just double check, see if you needed any help. And the days that like I would come down here and ask you if you needed help in the afternoon, you would have me carrying crazy stuff. And it would always be when I was in those ankle boots with like a 2-inch heel and I'm trying to walk down these steps, launch things into this giant trash can, and it's all really, really heavy. And every single time I would do that, I would think, why does this happen when I wear the most impractical clothes?
And it seemed like you always finished a tour or you had somebody coming in or you had a meeting or an appointment. Do you remember the time where we were in the lobby and you really wanted to sling a sledgehammer?
I did.
We were demoing that Fort Knox counter.
It's really stressful.
You would have thought we were at a bank. That thing was thick. Didn't you get something in your eye?
Either you or Harrison hit something and a piece of shard like shot, and I closed my eyes fast enough.
Yeah.
Kind of like, like on like the Equalizer, and it's like things are in slow motion and they're like bobbing and weaving bullets. That's how cool I felt at the moment.
What's
but
crazy
it literally
is
was just I closed my eye.
What's crazy?
That's all it was.
What's crazy is we had safety glasses. We had gloves. We had all these resources. Didn't use any of them.
We didn't. Sorry, OSHA.
I was in flip-flops.
No, let's not forget. I walk in, it's 8 billion degrees in here. You're over here sawing doors with your dogs out. And I'm like, Kevin, I don't think this is. You're like, I'm hot. Don't care. And I'm like, okay, see you tomorrow.
That was probably the best worst thing I ever did in my life. It was. I'm glad that we did it. Because now our students had this wonderful space, but
you really rocked it.
But pouring blood, sweat,
tears, tears
into it was a lot. Now, so you've had some changes. Let's talk about some of your changes in 4 years. So you've gone from a cubicle to an office. Do you miss the cubicle days? I don't feel like you could get anything done because you were at a cubicle and it was like the water cooler spot and like everybody stopped to gab.
I do miss some of the cubicle days. In the cubicle days when God rest her soul, the Queen of England died, I was the one that walked over to
I thought you were going to say Toby Keith.
No. We'll get to that later. But
God rest his soul, R.B.
My daddy served in the army. But I remember when the Queen of England died and I walked down to finance and I busted that door and I said, listen, Betsy. And she's like, what's going on? I said, the Queen of England is dead. And she goes, no. I said, yeah, just released. So I was like beep bopping. Like anything dramatic. When Betty White, I was the first one. I felt like a news reporter.
Yeah.
I do miss it. One thing that I loved working, so the day before I was supposed to move out all my stuff in the cubicle, I went through this like stint where I loved the water, the stuff you put in the water, the little squeeze bottles.
Okay.
And I had my, giant Stanley.
Yeah.
And I went to go squeeze some of that red fruit punch flavor. And it like shot off of the water and it like sprayed all over the cloth on the back of the part of that cubicle. And I remember just scrubbing, praying. I walked in there the other day.
Red Kool-Aid on the cubicle.
It's still stained on there. Steve, if you hear this, that was me, but I tried. But
that's fine. I drove a bike through the office one time. True story. I found a bike and I thought it would be cool to ride it through the office. And the office has a transition point where stairs. This was before your time. We were located in the bottom, and where the
you were
family
down
life.
In family life?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's where our offices were. So, and they had cubicles down there at the time. And Anna Maldonado was here, and she was at the top of the steps. And I drove the bike down the steps, and thought it would be so awesome. I lost at the bottom. It was smooth until I hit the bottom. And when I hit the bottom, I totally lost my balance. Bike flew up out from under me, and the tires burned the rubber on the side of the cubicle wall. So put this black streak mark on it. So anyway, you're putting Kool-Aid on cubicles. I'm putting tire marks. We
left our mark.
Yes, we did. That's a great
We left our mark.
That's great. So you are so another change that you've had in your time here. You got married.
I've been married and I've had about 4 different hair colors since I've been here.
I wasn't gonna bring up the hair colors, but I'm glad that you did.
I was brown haired last week.
But all of your hairstyles look great.
Listen, sometimes you just need to change. But I did get married. I got married. I met my husband down here on the internet, online dating.
The internet.
I love saying, it's not fun really anymore to say
like you're
Hinge.
saying the Audi.
It's not fun anymore to say, we met on Hinge. It's fun to say we were met on internet dating. And, the 60-plus crowd is like, you did not. And be like, sure did, Miss Shirley. Sure did. My husband, he's wonderful and kind and sweet. And
I loved you.
Oh, God, I do too.
Yeah, I really feel like you met your person. And it's so hard to meet your person. I remember when you were.
Do you remember my dating stories?
I loved your dating stories because I was like, why would you go out with this person? Or you've never met them and you're just meeting them at this place?
When I told you, I was like, yeah, I have a date. I always kept it 30,000 feet. And you're like, where did you meet him? And you're expecting me to say, I met him in the 11:15 service. We happened to sit beside each other. I was like, oh, online. And you were like, oh my gosh. And I was like, no, it's fine. I did have some crazy dating stories. But yeah, my husband's awesome. He's in law school. He's going to be a lawyer. what's really interesting about him is that he's had like a ton of different subplots in his life.
Okay.
Like he worked at like a salad place for a while.
He worked at a salad place.
Yeah.
He's such a burly man's man. Like
He makes some mean food.
Salad?
Good salad. But he did that. He went to a military school when he was in high school.
Okay, I knew that.
And so he played rugby like all 4 years, and he's like played rugby internationally.
Yeah.
And
rugby.
Yeah.
It's like he wants to run for president or something. You know what I'm saying?
I think he would make a great president.
He would.
He's no nonsense, but he's kind and he cares about people.
Well, since he's getting his law degree, maybe he can just become a judge.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool to smack the gavel, right?
Yeah. Be like,
you're out of order.
You're out of order. I'm holding you for contempt of court.
Okay.
30 days in jail.
So.
We also have a pet bunny named Harvey. Hi, Harvey.
Yes, you do.
I really wish you'd let me bring him to the
I'll
office.
never forget what Jimmy said. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to pretend like you just didn't say that. So I'll never forget the time that Jimmy, y'all showed Mr. Jimmy at church a picture of this rabbit. He said,
I love that man.
He said, that's a big boy.
He said, holy mackerel. I said, Jimmy, who's saying holy? He is my highlight of a Sunday.
Yeah.
I walk by, I see sweet little Jimmy, and he's like, you a piece of bubble gum? I said, sure do, Jimmy. And in about 2 seconds, that bubble gum's rock hard, no flavor. But I was like, he's so sweet.
All right, so Sara Haley, she's married. She's the enrollment director. She's,
finance guru.
Yes.
I'll call myself a guru.
You help students with their finances. Another thing that you've done, not just enrollment, but remember when you went with us to SEU conference? That happened in 4 years.
I've done that 3 times. And every time.
Sometimes you're the bus driver. Sometimes
16-passenger van. I looked at all those kids. It was pouring down rain. We'd had a rough day that day at Disney.
What park were y'all coming back from? Was it Hollywood Studios?
It was Hollywood Studios.
When it was pouring down rain?
Yep, because I got tachos and they were soaking doggone wet. I was mad. And we had to sprint them to the bus. And I had to drive the 16-passenger van. Never drove one before. And they all piled up in that car and they were just chit-chatting.
They were soaking wet too.
And they were just talking. And I turned around and looked at all of them. And I like to consider myself pretty go with the flow. Be like, everything's fine. Like, keeping things like positive, upbeat.
Yeah.
I turned around and looked at all of them. I said, listen, I need you to know I've never drove one of these. It's pouring down rain. We've got to drive on the interstate and it's dark. You're all going to sit back.
Oh my gosh.
Shut up.
I'm terrified and I wasn't even in the bus.
And we're going to drive in the car. And they all looked at me and went, yes, ma'am. And Marquis was sitting shotgun with me that trip. And he looks at me and he goes, I've never heard you speak like that. I said, I try not to. I said, but I can't handle this right now. So, yeah, great trip.
So, I'll never forget that time. There's so many things we could talk about. So,
just for SU conference alone.
Now, I remember that trip vividly for 2 reasons.
There's no way you remember it.
The first reason would be the next morning, I'm outside loading the buses and the vans and getting everything ready to roll back home. And Sam is outside and he has taken a black trash bag and poked holes at the bottom and pulled them up like a pair of pants. And I looked at Sam and I said, Sam, what are you doing? Why are you wearing a trash bag? Did you run out of clothes? And he said, no, all the seats in the van are wet because they got soaking wet from the rainstorm.
It was a monsoon.
So anyway, that van stunk so bad.
Oh, I bet it did.
It was rotten. It was rotten. It was so bad.
It was bad.
But it was definitely a trip for the ages. The other reason that I remember this and is because we were at Hollywood Studios and very first ride, Star Wars tours. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm still young. All these students want to ride this. I'll ride the ride with them. I don't do rides, okay? And my wife told me, she says, when you go, don't ride any virtual rides. You're going to get sick. So what do? I get on the virtual ride.
We've been there 20 minutes. You hadn't even had a snack yet.
I'll never forget it. Peyton Mull was sitting next to me. And the ride started. And the moment the ride started, the AC cut off. Everything went black. And then everything was just starting to spin and it was out of control. All right. And I was losing my balance. I was getting sick. I was getting nervous. I was trying to get out of my seatbelt. I was getting hot. My systems were shutting down. I could tell that Peyton was looking at me out of her peripheral vision. She was just kind of like this. She wasn't even looking at the ride. She's just watching me.
Everyone on that row, because I was at the far end, we all looked over at you and just saw you just
And then I passed out.
You did.
I don't remember anything. But when I woke up, I remember feeling so bad. I had lost my equilibrium. I threw up. I took Lewis's water, dumped it on my head.
Do you not remember what happened in between that?
No.
Okay, so
Because I was out.
Okay, so after the ride got off, trigger warning for those that have emetophobia. That's the severe fear of throwing up.
Really?
Yeah. So
wouldn't it be nausea phobia or like throw up phobia?
Emetophobia, like that part in Greek means like vomiting.
See, these people always surprise me.
These people are
probably talking about Greek right now.
What in the world,
people?
So triggered.
Do you speak Latin?
So. No. And so you see you coming down and you are hunched over the wall and you're throwing up while you're walking.
Okay.
And then you finally come back and you sit. Me and you sit down at this place and you're looking at all of them and you're just like, go. I said, I'll stay with you. You said, stay with me. Everybody else just needs to leave. And I said, okay.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget because you stayed. You stayed with me.
You laid down and you looked at me and you're like, my sugar's low. I said, what are you, 70? You said, I need to find something for my sugar. That's what's going on. It's just my sugar, Sarah. So I walk over to I find the closest thing. I pay like $15 for these gummies. And you're like, it's not helping. So then I'm trying to call your wife. And because you didn't tell us what your wife had said. You didn't
tell us.
Nobody
thought it was going to be this bad. It was Star Wars Tours, Sarah. It's not like I rode the Millennium Falcon.
We thought you were dying. This was it. I was like, oh my gosh.
I felt like I was
dying.
dying.
His body back. So I finally get her on the phone because she's in these meetings. And I was like, hey, we got on this ride and Kevin's I was like, do I have to worry about because you'd had health problems previously. And I said, my gosh. I was like, do I have to worry about these health problems? She's like, what ride was it? And I told her the ride and she was like, and your wife is always so even kiltered. And she goes, oh my God, I told him not to. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I told him he doesn't listen. So you finally.
Typical husband.
Listen to your wives. And so you finally come to 3 hours later and
I couldn't believe it was 3.5 hours later.
Yeah.
I thought we had been there 30 minutes.
I was 3 hours. And you're like, oh. So you try to regain yourself. And so we're walking through Toy Story Land. I have these pictures where you were trying, you were kind of
just out of it.
So you're trying on these cloaks.
We were in Star Wars Land.
We were in Star Wars Land.
How could you not try on a cloak at Star Wars Land? But anyway, I probably lasted 30 minutes, and then you had to take me back to the Airbnb.
And then you wouldn't let me drive you back, so you were hanging out the window
like a dog.
And then the GPS took us on this dirt road, and you were flying. I think we got 6 inches of air in that minivan.
We cut through a construction site.
I'm surprised we didn't get fined.
We were on Lethal Weapon.
I feel like we should have got fined for damaging the suspension because that Honda Odyssey had nothing afterwards.
But here's what I love. It's like Bonnie and Clyde. You were there for it all.
I was there.
And best worst moment of the life. You were there for the remodel, the renovation, the construction, in this 8-year anniversary. You were there at SEU conference for most of the shenanigans that occurred. There's so many more we could go over.
So many more.
Okay. So, but you have so many great stories. We're going to try to bounce around here. Okay. So, do you remember your first week on the job?
I was loud. Sorry.
You got hired.
I got.
Do you remember what happened?
I got interviewed and hired within 48 hours. I don't know if you remember this, but I was at the Starbucks, and it's funny enough, it's the Starbucks that you and Bill visit frequently.
I totally know what you're about to say.
And I went. You had texted me and was like, "Look this over. Let me know what you think. Job's yours." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, we hired you.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call.
And then I accidentally FaceTimed you because I meant to call somebody else and I was crying in the Starbucks. And
you
I'm
were
not a
balling.
big crier. And so I'm trying to hide my face. And I'm so embarrassed because this man does not know me. But now it kind of adds up. But I remember sitting, during my in-person interview, you were like, do you want to go down to Big Lots and get some candy? And I was like, yes. We go down there, we get these snacks. We're sitting down at the Dream Center.
Yeah.
They were so good.
Sitting on the steps.
And I remember telling God in that moment, if you don't give me this job, you're mean. And God was probably like, oh my gosh, like
you're eating gummies right now. Calm down.
And so, but then I was hired in 24 hours. So I was like, okay, God, you're not mean, which obviously.
Why were you so excited about getting this job?
Because
you called me crying. You meant to call someone else.
I felt like so before I was at this like really dead end job that I hated.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed something to change. And I felt like that God was putting me in a place that I really needed to be for that season of my life. Mm-hmm. And I knew that stepping into it, it was something that I had no experience in. I knew that I could do it. And I was like, I felt like my life was finally feeling like it was getting back on track, right? Mm-hmm. Because like before, like things were kind of crazy, and that was like right when we were starting to come out of COVID, and I had to move back home, and I was struggling.
That was like 2021.
Yeah, I was like struggling with that, and I felt I felt stuck. I was placed there in this season for it was important. I needed to be there.
Yeah,
but I was excited for this new season, and I also didn't think that you were gonna text me less than 12 hours later and be like, "Yeah, take this job." So I packed up everything I could fit in my Honda Accord. God bless the Honda, love her. And I lived with my friends, Ivy and Thomas, and Thomas was the youth pastor on staff here. They're like, you can live with us for a few months. And I packed up everything I could fit in there in an air mattress. I slept on an air mattress for like my first week here because I had to wait for my parents to bring my bed.
Okay.
And I get here and you're like, hey, I'm going to Hawaii. And I'm like, oh. What do you go to Hawaii? Turns out that's a very normal thing for you to like just randomly go to Hawaii.
What's funny about this is it's literally your first week, and I'm like, I'm going to Hawaii.
I don't even have an official SEU email address yet. Like I don't have anything, and you're like, which is not your fault. Like we're just going through this onboarding, and you're like, I need you to go to SEU and get training. And I was like, I don't have a credit. You're like, here's my credit card information. Just make it work. Yeah. I'm leaving in 12 hours, and I'm like. Okay. I was like, I don't know, like the approval process for anything. I get on a 6 a.m. flight, fly down to Florida,
You're there like 24 hours. But like,
I don't know why I did this. I took an Uber.
Did you even stay at a hotel?
I didn't think that I was in budget. Like I didn't even think to ask you. Kevin, I didn't know anything what was going on. So I caught like a 6 a.m. flight, flew down to Florida, took an Uber from either Tampa or Orlando into Lakeland. I was there for a couple of hours. The staff took me to this really good Italian place for lunch. I go back, I get it back, another Uber, and I fly home. And I probably got home at like 10, 11 o'clock by the time I got back. And then showed up to work the next day, like on time.
And then in your first week too, not only did I go to Hawaii and send you off to Florida for a 24-hour fast turnover training event, you then did your first admissions event. What was that event? Was that
that was the CALD conference with the AG? Yeah, and I honestly like I felt so bad because like people were coming up to me and they were asking me stuff, and I was like, hey, I really don't know yet.
I've been here 24 hours.
I've been here 24 hours, but we had the students there, so they were able to help.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I told you I did it all in 24 hours, you said, why did you do that? I said, I don't know. I just did it.
I have some numbers here, Sarah.
Oh dear.
Okay, are you ready?
I don't know.
All right, so in 4 years, so since you got hired, all right, 817 inquiries.
Oh my God.
817 people that you've interacted with that have given you names and numbers and emails that you followed up with, you've sent emails to, you've called to try to get them to schedule a tour. So since we started tracking tours, now, because we haven't always tracked tours, so you've done way more tours than this, but since we started tracking tours, 90 tours. So 817 inquiries, 90 tours, 166 applications.
Okay.
126 students accepted. All right. And 109 new students. That's incredible, Sarah. So in 4 years.
That makes me feel a lot better about my numbers.
So what is that like to do that many times, to do your job that many times with that many people over a 4-year period? Because I can't believe we're not even at 4 years yet.
I can't believe I did that.
It's gotta be a whirlwind.
It's always a whirlwind. There's always something crazy going on, and it's really cool, especially in the tour aspect, is that you meet so many different people, specifically, primarily for us in the Carolinas, that have so many different experiences, and it's really awesome to see that. What was my tour number?
Tour number 90 tours.
That I've personally like sat down with 90 different people over the past 4 years that God has radically changed their lives.
Yeah,
and that these people are dispersed throughout North Carolina and are excited to make a change in their lives and in their kingdoms and in the kingdom. And it's crazy. And no year is ever like the previous year.
Yeah.
Every year it's genuinely different. The market looks different. Students look different.
Yeah.
Now, there are some commonalities of we've had some very interesting students that have come through with some very interesting stories. And then we've had some students that called me and wanted to flip their application and come in like 2 weeks. And it's like fever dream. But it's cool. It's cool that we're having over 800 people interested in what we do.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like we're so much bigger than just a pin on the map.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you listen. You straight up gangster. That's a lot of numbers.
I don't know how I did it.
It's impressive. You're great at your job. We love having you here. Now there is a specific question I have. Okay. And I know what I would say if I were you.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the question. What is the craziest call that you've ever received? Because people from all over call and they want more information. And what's the craziest?
I have two. I have a tame one and like I'm being punked.
Okay.
This lady called one time and she was like, I'm calling about my Medicaid. I said,
about your Medicaid?
Yeah. I said, excuse me, ma'am? She goes, I'm trying to get my Medicaid all set up. And I said, ma'am, we're at college. Like, I can't help you with that. Like, do you want me to look up the number? She goes, no, this is the phone number that the people gave to have me call them back at. I said, ma'am, I can't help you. I hope Mama got her Medicaid figured out. She got to go get her blood pressure medicine. I don't know. And then
that's a wild call.
I was like, your Medicaid.
Okay, that's a pretty funny call.
But I had gotten a phone call once.
Okay.
And I couldn't understand what they were saying in the voicemail. Like, it was just one of those like red flags, like, don't give this person a call back. Like, something's up. So they call again. And I said, this phone number looks familiar. They didn't leave a voicemail. I said, I'm going to call them. It's like after hours.
Okay.
And I call this man. And he is telling me that he needs help because the aliens are coming. Guys, I'm so serious. I have it recorded. I have the voicemail still. I will never forget this voicemail. The aliens are coming to suck his brains out, and I need to give him protection. And I said, excuse me? And he's like,
you're like, Kevin?
My brain's like, they're doing something to my brain, and I can't, like, I said, do you need to, like, call it? He's like, no, like, you've just got to, like, send somebody. And I said, do I need to call 911? He's like, no, like, the brains and the aliens and suck it through my ears. And I don't.
Listen.
I can't help you. So I call and like I tell you, and you totally don't believe me. And I'm like, I'm not lying about this. If I wanted to come up with something to lie about something crazy,
I'm so glad.
Something a little bit more real. And so then I play you the voicemail, and you're like,
yeah, the voicemail was incredible. That was the best.
Played at my funeral.
Was incredible. All right, so quick question, and then we're gonna do a rapid fire round. Okay, because we're almost out of time. So, most memorable moment in your 4 years of being here? It can be fun. It could be serious.
I think I have a couple. I think my first Sunday here, I remember looking around and I cried because I felt like I was finally in a place where God wanted me to be.
Wow.
And I cried.
That's incredible.
And then I was like, quit crying, girl. Get it together. I remember when I had worked here for about 9 months and April Fool's was coming up. And I was like, and we at that point had just becoming like, you're my boss, but we were becoming like kind of like friends.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I'm so going to prank him. And so I was like looking up different things to do. Nothing like bad.
Yeah.
And then somebody else around that time, I got pranked in the office. And you looked at me and you're like, I hate pranks. I find them extremely disrespectful. Like I find it like that's
no games. We don't have time to play around here.
You were like, it's just unhonorable to like staff. And I was like, oh my God, I can't prank him now. I can't. So I was going to get this like little thing. It made like little like cricket chirps and you stick it and goes off until either you find it or the battery was going to die.
You were going to put crickets in my office?
No. It's like it's an electric thing. It's like a chirp.
Okay.
And I was going to hide it in your office. I also thought about putting your chair on the ceiling somehow. But then when you told me that, I said, I won't do it. So then someone else later was like, we should prank. I said, don't you do that to him. I said, he doesn't like it. Don't do that. I remember the grand opening was extremely memorable. All my preview days, I think the events that we do are extremely memorable. I've probably done about 10 different balloon arches and moved about 15 giant inflatables. Yeah, I think I feel like we have so many memorable moments and so many different things that have happened over the past 4 years. It's hard to really narrow them down.
Absolutely.
I could tell you my favorites, different, not necessarily moments, but my favorite parts of my job, but moments. I think I have like short-term memory of that. I don't know. I can't remember anything.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so glad that you're here. You do such a wonderful job.
Thank you.
So are you ready for the rapid fire round as we bring this broadcast to a conclusion?
Yeah, let me take a sip of my coffee.
Okay, wet your whistle. All right, so this is 60 questions, 60 seconds.
Okay.
First thing that comes to your mind. Okay, are you ready?
I feel like I can't look at you when I do this because I'll start
Oh,
laughing
you're
and
totally
I'm
going to break
totally
down.
going to lose
Absolutely.
time. Okay.
Some of your answers are probably going to make me die. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Ready, set. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Go-to karaoke song?
Shenandoah, 2 dozen roses.
Your life song?
Coat of Many Colors by Dolly Parton.
Biggest pet peeve?
When Quentin throws out my tea and puts it in the sink.
Famous person for dinner?
Dolly Parton.
Last thing you Googled?
What? I don't even remember. Probably how long it takes to study for a class.
What makes your day better?
Seeing my husband and my bunny.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Best day of the week?
Thursday.
One thing you can't live without?
My husband.
Nickname?
SG.
Book of the Bible? Come on,
Psalms?
book of the Bible. Bible character?
Why can't I?
Jesus, maybe?
I was gonna say Ezra. I don't know anything about him.
All right, favorite verse?
Jeremiah 29:11.
Favorite pizza topping?
Pineapple.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate. That's a lie.
There we go. It's a lie. What's your favorite ice cream
I
flavor?
was
For
gonna say
real?
purple, and I don't know why.
Purple?
It's some ice cream.
What,
flavor.
like rutabaga? like beef?
Strawberry.
Strawberry. Okay.
Strawberry.
Okay. Do you know how many questions you got?
I know I got. Sorry, Pastor Doug. I know I got more than Pastor Doug because I don't remember him saying half of those.
You got to 23.
Gosh.
23.
Tied again.
Yeah, 23. Not bad. Not bad. I mean, it's good.
Listen, I sing 2 Dozen Roses by Shenandoah really hard. And I understand it's a really sad song. And I'm in a wonderful, happy, and loving marriage. But there's something about it.
You could have picked a shorter title.
Shenandoah deserves all the respect.
I mean, the one word alone is 4 syllables.
It's going to be stuck in my head the rest of the day.
All right. Well, guys, you have heard it all right here. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us on the show. And everybody listening, thanks for tuning in.